Hello everyone, I'm Bishop Richard D. Howell Jr. I pastor this church, Shiloh Temple International Ministries. Since 1931, this church has been in the community. We're now entering our 90th year of ministry right here in Minneapolis. I'm so grateful to have an opportunity to share my conviction and my burden to you today regarding rent control. My friend, rent control has escalated in our community. We have dealt with so many of our fine citizens of this community who have had to battle between racial justice and class justice and rental justice. And I'll tell you right now that it's been very difficult for so many families, especially people of color, who have struggled making ends meet because of high payment costs, high rent payment costs. And by the time they finish their rent, there's hardly anything left over to spend on anything else that's considered a necessity in their family. We've got to do something about this. I challenge every faith ministry, every church in this community. We have got to have a greater understanding, clarity, and conviction to do something about this rent control right here in the Twin City areas. Would you join with us? Will you please pray for us, pray for this community so that many people don't have to struggle. If we put our faith together, we can do something about this. Let's put our faith in action.
Can you tell us your name and what neighborhood you live in?
My name is Joshuah Edwards, and I live in this neighborhood down there on 44th and Nicholas.
So, do you know what's happening in the park today? Why these guys are walking around talking to people?
I heard a little bit about it.
Awesome. Do you rent?
No, not yet.
Not yet,
but my mom rents. My family
your
rents.
mom does. So, what have you been seeing as far as the cost of living in your neighborhood?
It's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Before we moved into this building down here, the rent for the old tenants was like $900 a month, and they did some cheap renovations. All they did was like put a new stove, a new microwave, and some fancy lights that aren't really fancy, and they raised the rent to $1,600.
Executive Director of the Harrison Neighborhood Association, and I live in the Hawthorne neighborhood of North Minneapolis.
That's beautiful. What about, can you tell us a little bit about rent control, the movement?
Sure. So, rent control has been a topic and something that people have been wanting now for many years. We know that in Minneapolis, rents are out of control. They've been skyrocketing. People are being displaced, particularly in communities like Harrison here. And so rent control is a way to stop rents from going up more than 2 to 3% a year so that we can help keep people in their communities. I think people already are paying over a third of their income in rent. In some cases, we know of folks in Harrison that are paying more than 50% of their income in rent every month. And so people are right now barely hanging on. We need a way to be able to rein in the corporate greed of landlords.
What are some of the things that caused it?
Well, I think, over the course of the last decade, we've seen really a lot of deference being given to corporate landlords and to landlords by City Hall. There really hasn't been a whole lot in terms of renter protections to protect renters from these kinds of rent increases that we've been seeing. And so it's really just been, renters have been at the whim of the market. And we know that that's not working. We can't rely on the goodness of landlords' hearts, to not raise rent when they're driven by profit.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Ferguson, and I live in East Harriet neighborhood, a little bit south of uptown. So like 9 out of 10 of the new properties that are built are luxury housing, so the average Minneapolis resident can't afford it. so that drives up rents in like the surrounding areas as well, and the surrounding properties. And so that's, it's a huge problem, I think, in our city. There's been calls on City Hall and the mayor to, pass some common sense affordable housing legislation and those kinds of things, but unfortunately they are, more susceptible to the demands of these corporate developers and lobbyists than they are to, a resident who comes to speak to them the same day.
So if you could say anything to the mayor right now about this, what would you want to say to him?
I know.
How would you challenge him?
I would say get ready, because this movement is coming. Like, you're not going to be able to ignore this issue. You're not going to be able to, like, obfuscate away from the issue and say, well, look what I'm doing. I'm building, a unit here of affordable housing or a unit here of affordable housing. I think that, like, it's going to come to a point where, like, we hope that the mayor is going to be pressured enough by this movement to do the right thing, what's right for renters, and take our side, whether that's, out of his own volition or not. Well, that remains to be seen, but we're going to do everything that we can to, to get the needs met of the community.
Stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear